Hi guys, and welcome to season 1, episode 10 of the UK Cowboys TV show. I am your host Lauren, and I'm joined by the fantabulous Jamie Smith and Richard Jones. Hello, chaps. Victory Monday.
Hey, everybody. Nothing sweeter.
How are we feeling? Buzzing?
It's a good smell. Smell of winning.
I think there's the smell of dead Giants fans on your hands.
I did say last Thursday I'd be more than happy with a nice relaxed decimation. That's pretty much exactly what we got.
Yeah.
In fairness.
That's the first the first 2+ score win that we've had since week 6 last season, where we beat the Jags 40-7. Nice. And I was at that game. It's a long time coming, wasn't it?
Just a bit.
So in case you're on Planet Crazy and you don't know the score, it was Dallas Cowboys 35 and the Giants 17. So, yeah. Where should we start? Well, there's only one place to start, really, isn't there? Out with Scott Linehan and a rise Sir King Kellen Moore. The play calling.
What a rise from backup quarterback to QB coach to now being front and centre.
I mean, what was different? I mean, I thought the whole offense had a whole different feel to it. But what stood out for you guys in terms of what was different to perhaps what we had under Moore, under Linehan?
The pre-snap was just completely and utterly different. Like there was one play, I think it was about 3 or 4 guys who were moving around. Like you're lucky if you got one really under Linehan, and that is usually like a bootleg or something.
Yeah.
It was really nice to see, and it created a lot of confusion. It did create confusion. It did create some mismatches. I think it was we had our first triple option, I think, last night, which was a bit mad. But that's just the pre-snap stuff is completely different. Everyone, it seems to have energized everyone, like we were saying in the off season, and we were hoping it was going to carry through, and it definitely seems like it has. Because offensively, everyone had a ball. Absolutely balled out. Pretty much, I can't think of anyone offensively who did bad for the Cowboys. Really, I don't think anyone really slipped up. It was one of those good games. It felt a bit like a preseason game, really. Like it was like a second dress rehearsal, which is a bit weird to say, but yeah, the Giants suck, so it's fine.
What about you, Jamie? What was like the best bit that you saw from Moore?
I think it was that element of surprise kind of thing. Where I know we've sat last season and you could kind of tell what was coming on plays like 3rd and 6. You know it was going to be a pass over the middle, but we seemed to mix it up a little bit more, and just everything seemed to, like everyone said, it connected. And even on the deep shots, we seemed to take a lot more deep shots than we usually do. And it was on the money. It's like Dak was putting them where just only the receivers could get to him. And it looks like it's going to be fun this season watching the passing element of the game as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had 5 different touchdown scorers last night. The old man Whip, he was back in amongst the action. We still had Blake Jarwin, who arguably scored what would normally be a Witten bread and butter touchdown.
Yeah, that was a very good thing to see.
And like you said, Jamie, the deeper option was there, and I was perhaps a little bit surprised that given that Zeke was going to be on a limited rep, that they still set up to load the box really to stop Zeke, and it just meant that Dak could go out there and ball out really. You know, he had a pick of anyone at any time. All the wide receivers showed up, and I thought that was when's the last time we had so many wide receivers that were actually going to go out there and
I don't remember it.
Pick your poison, go and do it. You know.
I don't remember it. I haven't heard the term pick your poison since bloody hell, since just before they drafted Zeke, really, when it was DeMarco Murray's reign. But even then, that was just like what you had about 3, maybe 4 guys. Now you had like 5 guys last night without Zeke. It was a bit crazy. I mean, they had like 5 they had 5 or 6 chunk plays. They were going to like 10 personnel and actually passing it rather than just giving it to Zeke, which is amazing to see. But yeah, it really does seem, because it's not like before where it was like one of those pick your poison options was someone who's a little bit inconsistent, like Terrence Williams. Like, you got Amari Cooper, you got Randall Cobb, you got Gallup, you got Witten, and you got Jarwin, probably the most inconsistent. I use that very, very lightly, is Jarwin, really.
And I think it's good as well to see where in the past we've had to say like somebody like a Dez, where it's if you can stop the run, if you can stop Dez, then you can pretty much stop the passing game. Whereas you maybe not always expect, like I said, there were some deep balls last night, but then you dump one off to Cobb and he'd make some yards out of it, and it was the Giants just didn't have an answer to it, and they just looked lost from probably our first possession.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't. I know Graham, who does the show with us. His dad is a Packers fan, and I know he wasn't 100% sold on what Cobb could do coming in here. He thought perhaps his best days were behind him, but I think did he convert the third down before the Witten touchdown? Broke a tackle, made the play.
Yeah, I was just about to say that was
vintage Cobb, wasn't it?
That was vintage Cobb. Yeah,
it was just like get out of the way, wasn't it? It was just literally just. Yeah.
It was something you wouldn't get from Beasley. You wouldn't get that from Beasley at all. He just hasn't got the size to do it. Just put him there, just stiff-armed him, held him there. All this time he was taken there, and it was a good 3-4 second count. I was like, this is taking a lot of time for him to shed this guy. But not because it took him that long to do it, just because of the situation. It was a two fairly evenly matched guys size-wise. Then he just stiffed him, put the shoulder in, and just pancaked him to the side. I was like, fuck off, and I'm going for 5 more yards. Yeah. It's the Giants, but when you're there one-on-one, and it's basically a one-on-one drill, that was. It's just like, he wanted it more. That's all that was. Cobb was just fuck off, I got a statement to make.
So we're talking about different players showing up. We've had a poll running in the Facebook group today for offensive MVP from the game, and it's pretty much a walkover that Dak's taken that award with his perfect quarterback rating from last night. What's different with him? I mean, can't fault anything from last night.
Pretty much everything. I mean, really?
I think Kittner as well. I mean, Kittner's clearly he's worked. Not that he was a bad quarterback, because he was a good quarterback, but I just think Kittner clearly knows how to get the best out of Dak. It's obviously showing.
I think technically he just looked superb last night, and let's temper it. It was against the Giants, but that poise in the pocket that perhaps sometimes he's got a little bit jiggly in the pocket when if there's any pressure, or he might leg it out the pocket unnecessarily. He just looked calm, cool, collected. Let's go and ball out. He knows he's got those guys there now. I think that he's not having to force it to anyone.
Yeah, I think as well. When I noticed a few of the passes, I know watching last season, some of the when the ball came out, it didn't look pretty sometimes, but it just looked very polished yesterday. That the ball was coming out perfectly, and saying he's obviously got a lot of confidence on top of what he already had from the off season, and it's. I think we were discussing a few weeks ago that we'd like to see him take that next step again, and he clearly took it last night.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks that way. I mean, it's this is the first game, and yes, it was the Giants. We were kind of expecting this, but at the same time, his footwork had improved. I mean, given his dues where they are, not to play it down. His footwork's improved, his placement's improved. It's been very, very obvious that they've all been practicing together, him and his wide receivers and his tight ends, to get used to being in sync, because that long ball down the left to Gallup in the second quarter was beautiful. That was perfectly placed. He didn't break stride at all. He was around the back. Defensive guy was pretty much on him, but he just got that last second burst, and it's just hand was there, and it just came and fell straight in. And it was absolutely perfect to see. And then it was just like tweet it straight out. I was like, where are all these clowns that say he can't throw deep? Because that was beautiful. They had like five. I said earlier, they had like 5 or 6 proper chunk plays, and they were deep throws. And yes, it's easier when your wide receivers are getting open, but all of them weren't really like open. They were the chunk plays were actually fairly well covered. It was the touchdown passes, but they were relatively short in the grand scheme of things. I wouldn't count them as big chunks. The ones where the guys were open, like Jarwin and Witten, they were massively open on their touchdown. But yeah, it's pretty good to see.
Yeah. So a deal is apparently imminent. So Dak's new shiny contract to go along with
Surprise.
Zeke. So I'm sure Jerry was sweating a bit last night when he saw the perfect quarterback rating come up. But obviously, one game isn't going to change things dramatically in that department. But he clearly has no issue with going out there and playing for his deal. There wasn't any concern. He just doesn't come across as that type of guy anyway. But yeah, you want me to go and ball out? I'll go and ball out, Jerry. I think with the attitude last night.
Yeah, he's a gamer. He's going to go. You lay a mantle down for him, he's going to go and he's going to step up to it. He's proven that since his rookie season. So not surprising in any way, really.
Yep. So hopefully, well, they say imminent. That could be, this week, could be middle of the season. I don't know, but definitely watch this space on that one. Okay, so we've drawled over the offense. Defense, perhaps not so much to get super excited about, but got the job done. What did we make of the defense yesterday?
Wasn't as swarmy as we thought it was going to be.
They looked a bit rusted in against the run.
Yeah.
Like you say, I think it's too early to worry. Like you say, there were a couple of big plays, but apart from that, they seem to get things done. And it's just, like I say, we're still missing, we're missing Quinn. It's going to step in there, so we're not. When I say full strength, I use that term loosely, because he's going to naturally be the star, isn't he? But Van Der Esch for me just was, the kid is special, and it's going to be fun watching him and people like Jalen Smith for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I think it was a bit more of the same, wasn't it, with the defensive backs in the case of it was like close but no cigar. We saw on the very first play, Xavier Woods forced the fumble, which was a nice play. But there wasn't particularly any splash plays on defense, but, I suppose we got the job done. And with the offense putting up as bigger numbers, that limited what we got to see from Barkley, which probably, made it a lot easier on the defense than what perhaps it could have been if they were playing for the game.
Was there a reason why he didn't come back into the game? Because he didn't come back out the second half, did he? From what I can remember.
I think, to be honest, it was just they weren't going to do it. I mean, even when he was in the game, they weren't running him. I think part of this reason, really, that it was a blowout was obviously partly because the offense on our part was doing well, but also they weren't utilising Saquon nearly as much as they could have. He was doing pretty well. There were a lot of seams that were being created right in the middle. He wasn't going out wide very much. They just didn't actually utilise him. I was quite surprised this morning when I came on, and it's probably be a bit unpopular, but when I saw everyone was voting for Van Der Esch as the MVP for defense, I was like, really? Because he was over pursuing a lot, and that's something that caused us massively against the Rams, and there was one thing I didn't want to see in the first game of this season. And it wasn't just him, but him particularly when he's playing the linebacker core and they've got to stop the run and you're going up against Saquon Barkley. If our offense hadn't been scoring as much as they had, and it was more like last year where there was still some red zone troubles or even just game one rust, that would have been a much, much closer game.
Yeah, I think Barkley would have been on there pounding it then if they were within a score, then
But even if they just used him right, that would have been, even with the scoring last night, it would have been a much, much closer game. This wouldn't be as big a thing as it was. And part of that is, I'm not trying to take anything away from Dallas, but if the Giants had used Saquon properly, they would have got a lot more, which probably would have knocked a bit of the rust off our guys. But I was a bit surprised to see people just jumping straight on Van Der Esch. And I think that's probably because of the forced penalty. He had, I think, the second quarter, forced intentional grounding. But yeah, it was definite improvement. Like, Tank wasn't happy with it. There was one sack. There was, close but no cigar in the secondary. I mean, that'll probably come. It's one of those things. But definite work needs doing on defense. But I still think with the way, even though they were playing the Giants, with the way the offense played last night and how comfortable Dak and everyone else looked, you'd expect them to ball out against the team like that. The defense isn't that good. So if they can do that there, if the defense, even if they don't play, if they played like they did last night and it wasn't that great, and the team is keeping up with you offensively, we're now back to where we were a couple of seasons ago, where we were 12-4, and we just 3-3, and we're just outscoring everyone. And once you get to that point, 21 points, it's hard for teams to really score more than you, really. There aren't that many really high-scoring teams out there. You're looking at then your upper echelon teams. You're looking at New England, New Orleans, LA Rams. So, yeah, as long as they come back up to where they should be, which they should, because we all know the quality of the guys that they have.
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Rich, it was similar to the Rams in coming up the middle, and yesterday was the most yards we've given up in 22 games.
Yeah, and that includes the Rams.
Yeah, so, it's nuts. And I think we do have really good depth there. When you look at the guys on paper, let's just hope it is rust, or they just need to kick it off.
I don't see it surprising, because we see it every year. Every team has rust in the first game. Everyone does.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that the quarterback and the wide receivers, the team that has put in a lot of work this offseason, specifically in their bubble, is the one bubble that looked really, really polished on that field last night of absolutely everyone. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. So, yeah, I think it probably is a bit of rust and getting back into the swing of things. It's the first time these guys have all played an entire game together. And like you said, Robert Quinn isn't out there. I still don't know what's happening with Randy Gregory, but that sort of is what it is. I don't think that has any great bearing on it, but yeah, let's just wait and see what happens next week.
Yeah, I mean, there were reports from the media that were inside the locker room afterwards that the defence were particularly pissed off with their own performance. They're mad that they didn't, perform to probably the level that, we were all expecting. A really, really, we wanted DeMarcus to go and, eat up Eli last night. Actually, I love a good Eli meme, but he played fine last night. There wasn't really much you could fault Eli for last night, unfortunately.
It was more the coaching, really. It's like Linehan's gone over to the Giants, really, which is kind of good for us. But it's good to see that they're pissed off at themselves. That's a good.
Yeah.
I think that's where the teams come along a lot over the years, where you used to see defensive performances where they get shot for a lot of yards, and you talk to them, it's like, we had a bad game, or we'll brush it off and we'll go again next week. Whereas you say they were in there and they were pissed off about it, so they clearly know that they weren't on the game, and it clearly matters, and they don't want to be known as a defense like that. So I have full faith that they'll step it up this week. I say it's just one of them things, and I don't think both sides of the ball for any team, if you look at some of the games this weekend, have clicked both sides instantly. But they say it's still early doors, isn't it? Plenty of time to go.
I think I read that something like there was 7 quarterbacks this week that threw more picks than they had touchdowns. So at least we're not in that camp.
Wow.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. Who were your MVPs on either side of the ball last night? So offense and defense, take one from each.
I'm just going to go for Gallup.
Yep.
Gallup took a massive, massive leap. He's definitely, like a lot of people were saying on Twitter, I think he's gone definitely up to wide receiver 2 sort of level. He's making that argument there. Again, I know we're only one game in, but that was a pretty dominant performance. I mean, he led the team last night in receiving yards.
Yep.
He was getting separation like nobody's business. Part of that is Kellen Moore's system, but part of that is just Gallup.
Pretty nuts that we used to think of Terrence Williams as a decent number 2, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking that earlier on today. I was like, this just the difference in this wide receiver core from what like I've never known anything like it. I've never known something sitting at it and just like, this is mad. Like we've seen Dak spread it out before. That's nothing new. But to see him spread it out and just, it was just different last night. It was, everyone just looks loaded and dangerous, and it's like, Jesus Christ, he's got some freaking weapons around him now, passing game. But we were saying it coming into it, or at least I was. Like people, they're sleeping on Gallup, but they're sleeping on Dak and the passing game on this team, and it's going to wake a lot of people up. And I think they did last night. I think the whole league is now going to take a good look at him and be like, yeah, well, I think we need to possibly not so much concentrate on Zeke and worry about Dak being Dak as well, like he was in his first season, because he looks, like Jamie said, he looks like he's taking a step up now, which is good, because then maybe we have people coming back, which opens things up for Zeke, which when you've got Travis Frederick, who's like parting of the Red Sea.
Definitely. Who was your man on offense, Jamie?
Well, in the group poll, I picked Dak. I just don't think you could cut. I mean, it was a one horse race for that. But I back up. You guys say that Gallup was a decent second. I'm happy to eat my words. I said in the off season I thought he was wide receiver 3, but he's clearly that number 2 guy. He's clearly going to be a threat this year. He's going to cause DBs some nightmares. And I think it's going to help take men out of the box, and Zeke's going to get more yards than you would maybe expect against some of the better teams.
Yeah, definitely. What about on defense then? So I think you said you were going for Van Der Esch, didn't you, in the group, Jamie, earlier on?
Yeah, I would say it was just more to say, because if you look at his stats, I think he had 10 tackles last night, and they're saying he was flying around. Yeah, there was a few times he was caught out, but I just think he looked hungry, and he out of that front 7 probably stood out, but just probably a little bit more to me than the rest of them.
What about you, Rich? Who's your man?
I mean, given what I said earlier about people jumping on Van Der Esch, I mean, I'd probably still agree. I think it's probably, for me, it's a tie between him and Tank, just purely because Tank had the only real splash play.
Yeah.
And then the next closest was Van Der Esch with that forced error. So there's a lot of pressure last night. It was a good thing to see. I mean, we've said umpteen times before, and everyone says it, that it's not just about the big splash plays and sacks. It's pressure and consistent pressure. And that was a good thing to come from the defense last night. From the front, there was a fair amount of pressure. Eli was getting flushed out a lot.
Yeah. I think, and Tank didn't get home a couple of times, but he was there knocking on the door, and I think they flipped him over, didn't they, a few times as well late on.
Yes, that was interesting to see. Very interesting. You've got to think what that's going to look like as well with Robert Quinn in there. Or someone else in there if they pull him out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start putting some crazy looks on defense as well. If just because you got to think how much fun Rod Marinelli has got to have.
Yeah,
I couldn't say his name then. Bloody hell! I wouldn't be surprised.
Of the defense, in particular that defensive end spot, Taco was obviously inactive yesterday, and initially there was talks, of a high ankle sprain, but there's now suggestions that continued suggestions that he's out there as trade bait, and Stephen Jones, as little given away as usual from him, but said that they are fielding calls and they want to improve the roster, was pretty much as much as what we got from him. So, just as Taco seemed to start showing up a bit in pre-season, it looks like we could potentially be moving him. What areas do you think, we'd be looking for? Or will we just flip in for a pick? Or
to be fair, I think, and just to kind of expand on what you said there on, I read a report as well that he pretty much, as soon as the game finished, he left. He walked out the locker and he went, which doesn't suggest good things, but I think, I think probably going to be a pick for me. I just think we've got Quinn coming back, it just seems like that natural selection in it rather than just bringing another salary for the sake of it. Stock up on a pick. We've drafted really well over the last few years, and we found some gems. So why not snag a pick somewhere?
What do you reckon we could? What kind of level pick are we talking about here? Do we think we're obviously not going to get a first for him? What are we talking?
Would you say we'd be lucky to? Yeah, would you be lucky to get a fifth maybe with the production that he's given?
Yeah.
Or am I just being a bit too stingy there and devaluing him a little bit?
It's hard, isn't it?
You got to think that's what teams are going to do, though, aren't they? They're going to sort of devalue him in negotiations and blah 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 blah. But yeah, the performance. You're right. The performance hasn't been there until he's starting to flash now this season. And yeah, it would be a shame if he did go, given that now he's starting to flash and he's starting to show up a bit, and I just picked him off of fucking waivers in fantasy. But yeah, but thinking he's going to ball out and be like, yeah, let's get a Dallas player on here, let's go for it. But I wouldn't be surprised if, because I'm trying to think, there's no, at the minute, touch wood, there's no glaring, I want depth there, like I need a offensive lineman, because we're quite long on that. Don't need a defensive lineman. He is one. We don't really need a safety, don't need a tight end, don't need a wide receiver, don't need a running back, don't need a long snapper, don't need anyone else really. I mean, you kept Chan up for doing, you've got the roster exemption as well, and even if he could potentially go down if needs be after that, but he's there for special teams as well. You've got Jordan Lewis as well. I think, if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if they do trade him, and that is the corresponding roster move for Robert Quinn.
Yeah, I know that was our mailbag question for the week, is who are we going to move out to bring Quinn in? But, if the timing lines up, then that just sounds,
You get a pick for him. He hasn't been massively great. Yes, he's starting to show up. I mean, if you're going to trade him, it makes a bit more sense to do it now and get, whilst there's potentially, because if he starts not playing again, then the small increase in his price is going to start going back down again. And we got Robert Quinn coming back. I mean, he's only on like a 2-game suspension, is he, Quinn?
Yeah, 2 games.
So really, if you're going to trade someone, and Stephen Jones said they were looking at, they were shopping around those linemen offensively and defensively about a week and a half ago. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if he did go, and that was the corresponding move. Was for him to go, we get a pick, like Jamie said, and that's it. And then Quinn comes in. It's the position. It's the exact same position.
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense. Right, anything else anyone has burning desire to discuss tonight, or shall we wrap it up?
Quick question, because I was just thinking of this going home, because like I said earlier on, the defense needs to play up, because if the Giants had used Saquon properly last night, then there would have been some snags and would have been a much closer game. Even with that, like I said, I think this offense has the ability to go out and score a lot of points, as long as they keep up that tempo and that completion percentage and the third down conversion rate. That was really good. If they can keep doing that, I think we can go up against any sort of team, including, hopefully, touch wood, and I know this is really early, but potentially the Patriots and the Rams. Now, with the way Bill Belichick wins, he takes away your strength, your best strength. He does that and he neutralizes that and takes it away. What would you, if you were Bill Belichick, what would you do with this team after what you've seen after last night? And I know it's only one game, but what offensively would you try to take away from this team?
Oh, I'd still focus on Zeke, personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I say, it's that yesterday was could it be a one-off? I don't think it'll be a one-off in terms of the receiving bit, but yeah, like I say, you keep putting a lot of people doubt Dak, and still say that he's not an accomplished passer, which I think personally, and I think we all agree tonight that he completely wrote off that fear for a lot of people. But yeah, it's still definitely Zeke. He's not a one-trick pony. He'll hit you in the mouth. I think there's a picture flying around that the Cowboys posted last night. I don't know if it was his touchdown. There was 5 men on him, and he still got the ball in. And that you just can't teach that. If you take that away first, then you're halfway there to keeping a team to a low score.
Because I'm starting to contemplate now is if this incline does keep going up and Dak does take this step up, are you realistically, or would from Bill Belichick's sort of point of view, or anyone else really, would they look to take Dak out of it? or as much as they can, because from a passing side of things. Because if you do, you then make the Cowboys sort of one-dimensional again. But even then, and the point I'm trying to make here is that, and it's what Lauren said earlier on, is that this is very much looking initially like a pick your poison kind of team. And like we said, there are a lot of weapons here that are looking very, very good. It's not just a case of you've got Zeke or you've got Cooper. You've got everyone else that's in there as well. Whitner's playing very well. Jarman's playing very well. Gallup, we all know about Gallup. He looks like he came straight out of fucking Ascot the way he was going. It was mental. But it's just, I'm very low-key hyped for this team right now, because I don't see how you can take away one or two good players in this team, or a big part of this team, and not have us compensate in another side of it. I think this is a very, very strong offensive roster, and I think this year we're looking potentially shaping out like it's going to be the offensive side. Like some seasons you'll have the offense will carry the team. Other seasons we've had the defense carry the team. This year, initially, it's looking like the offense is going to carry the team. But if this defense starts playing up like they did last year, playing up to standard, holy fuck, that could be fun.
I think another flip side, say if you take Dak's passing ability out of it, whereas I know it's probably a poor kind of comparison, but if you had say something like an Eli Manning back there, I would probably be worried because that's all he can pretty much do. Whereas Dak can beat you with his feet, so if plays break down, he will tuck it in the running. He doesn't mind taking a hit. So I think that's why it would lean more for me anyway for Zeke to say, because if the passing game breaks down, Dak will just tuck and go, and he normally picks up some good chunk of yardage. So I think we'd be fine that way, and drives would still continue.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you try taking him out, presumably it's going to be with pressure, and he is one of, I believe still, if not the best statistically over the past couple of years, scrambling.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Cowboys hype train.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm trying not to do that, but I am sitting here, even though I said about defense needed to play better, and we're playing against the Giants. At the same time, it's like it still seems like it's quietly brewing there, and even though like the lid came off a little bit and it boiled over a little bit last night, it's like when they come up against like a good team and they start then playing up to standard, like game 3 or game 4, then I think it's going to be very interesting to see what this team can really do, because the offense said last night that was just a taste. I can't remember who said it.
You have to remember that coaches haven't got anything in terms of Kellen Moore and his playbook yet, so it'll be interesting to see as the season goes on if they pick any sort of like tendencies up, if he particularly... I mean, my mum, who's never watched a game of football in her life, could probably have watched 5 minutes of Scott Linehan offense and worked out his playbook.
What he's going to do. Yeah, like I said, they always went to 10 personnel and it was a run for Zeke. Last night they actually did that twice and passed the ball.
Yeah.
2 different people, I believe.
I think just to probably rub it in a little bit more, because we don't like the Giants, I think you've had to compare the game last night. It was like watching someone play Madden on easy mode. It was just, it was that easy. Like you at times you couldn't see the Giants stopping us, and I think it could have got, if that game would have gone on over 10, 15 minutes more, I think it would have been a lot worse than it was. Giants.
I was giving that Andy guy from the Giants, UK Giants, I was giving him some stick. Just on Facebook Messenger last night, I came in and was like, because I was just like watching the game so much, and I was like, crap, I'm supposed to be on Twitter content this is. So I didn't really do anything for the first quarter. Like Mike wasn't on Insta. And went in and I just started giving him shit from like when we scored the second touchdown. I was like, you had to feel nervous yet? And he was like, nah, it's fine. It's a lot closer than you think. We're looking fine. And just as it went on, he just got more and more depressed and just started drinking more. And he's just like, fuck it, this is ridiculous. It's just like, I stopped it at the end. When we got to like 35, I was like, I'm not even going to rub this one in. I just genuinely feel really, really sorry for you right now. I really do. I was like, you're a nice guy. I feel sorry for you right now. And he's like, yeah.
I must admit, I did stay off Twitter when I think I posted something yesterday morning and tagged the group in. Yeah. And I'm assuming that's the guy that replied. He's just saying like "Go Big Blue," and then I just saw a reply from Rich like saying, "Oh, that tweet is really." When I thought I'm staying off Twitter because this is just going to go.
That wasn't even him. I don't know who that was. I thought that was like one of your mates or something. It just like having a bit of banter with you, and it was just like "Go Big Blue." I was like, "Who are you?" Just posted a clown emoji. And he came back to it, and I was like,
Pieces.
okay. Yeah, and then I was like, someone else like commented on it later. I think it was Graham or something dragged it up. Oh no, he dragged up a different one. But then yeah, that was like, that aged well, didn't it? Was brilliant. And it was fair play. He was like, give it to you. Yeah, that's you. You got us on that. But it was brilliant. Giants were boring though. Just a quick run up on Twitter game, quote unquote. They were boring as fuck last night. Giants, you need to step it up.
Oh.
There was nothing. Absolutely sweet FA. And I don't blame them for it because they didn't really have anything to come back with because they played shocking. It was boring. But it was like a nice first game, like I said, just relaxed decimation, just sat there with a drink, chilled out, coming on midnight. I was like, yeah, go to bed now. Happy days, get up for work. Get used to this.
Well, I'll be back on Thursday with Graham and hopefully the Bicep Joe to record the pre-game show for the Redskins. But yeah, keep up that Cowboys hype train. Go and round up some Redskins fans for us to taunt. Thanks to my co-presenters, Jamie and Rich. Follow UK Cowboys on Twitter, join our Facebook group, follow us on Instagram, and also like us on Facebook. We are everywhere, coming at you from every direction, just like the Cowboys offense last night.
Yep, follow us everywhere, just not in the street.
Yes, thank you. Peace out. Go Cowboys.
Peace out.